Is it on?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Jessie. Hi, it's Kayla. I'm here. I'm super excited. I'm with Fiona Jane Weston.
That's right.
Yay, I got it right. I'm here in London. And normally I'm doing these things with Be Live and split screen and, Zoom. And it's just so fun to be here in person with somebody, especially somebody as cool as this lady. So Fiona, go ahead and introduce yourself and then we'll get into what we're going to talk about.
Right. Well, hello. Well, long name, but you'll never forget it once you've learned it. Fiona Jane Weston. I'm an actress and a singer, and I'm also a cabaret artist. I produce my own one-person shows, and I am now teaching and mentoring and directing other people in their one-person shows as well.
Okay. And just really quickly, I'm sure everybody knows this, but just in case, what is cabaret?
Actually, that is quite a hard question. You'd be surprised how hard that is. It's a very wide umbrella term, I'd have to say. At one spectrum, you've got people who do burlesque and circus acts, drag acts, that sort of thing. And right over at the other end, you've got more people who sing, often American songbook, but not just that, or musical theatre, or a combination with jazz. And I'm on that end of the spectrum, and I also bring in a lot of spoken word with my shows as well.
Okay, thank you for that, because I'm not sure everyone always knows what cabaret is, and we'll get into why that's interesting in general, like with acting and fear and performance anxiety. So we met in an online course, right? One of Selena Sue's courses, I think, or was it Pete Fargus? Anyway,
can't remember.
One of those, be seen courses, like how to be seen more, right? Mm-hmm. And we're a lot of online entrepreneurs that are building businesses online are working more at this visibility thing. Now, obviously, I do video, and that is like the most literal form of being seen online right now. So what I've run across quite a bit, and especially with women, and especially mid-career women, is there's a lot of anxiety about being on camera, being on video, and even if they're okay with being on camera, there's just this anxiety around being seen in this new way. So Fiona and I were having tea at a gorgeous restaurant, Covent Garden, drawing room of a hotel downtown. And we were talking about this, and she said something really interesting to me, because I just assumed that people in her line of work would not have the same kind of anxiety. So
they do.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, certainly, since you're aiming particularly at ladies of a certain age, then I think that's important to remember, because actors, men and women, but particularly for women, as they get older, as they commit the appalling crime of actually getting older, the parts start to dry up, the work starts to dry up, unless you're already extremely established and famous. And you can probably say to me, oh, but I've seen lots of older actresses that play really interesting roles. Yes, so have I, but you can probably name on two hands who the actresses are. All right, I challenge you. Get past 10 and tell me. Mm-hmm. All right, so it's quite difficult for a lot of actors when they reach a certain point where they're no longer the pretty ingenue, when they can't take that role anymore, that it can suddenly just disappear on you, unless you're very much into what they call the character roles, which is not the leading lady roles often. Lots of good work to be had there, but if you're not cast in that bracket, you're not going to walk into those roles very easily. So it becomes a bit of a problem for people. And also, surprisingly enough, actors quite often are not very extroverted, not really. They like to hide behind someone else, hide behind a character, which is one of the things that attracted them to acting in the first place, because it gave them a confidence to be somebody else when they're in a public place or on stage, especially when you're all done up in a costume and the audience is out there is all in the dark, and then you are here in the light, but you're being someone else, and you know what you're going to say because you've been given a script and you have worked for however long it takes through the rehearsal process to become that person. So that when you're then asked to speak as yourself, this can be quite tongue-tying and very exposing for someone who's just not used to that at all. And this is where cabaret can be very frightening for somebody, because in cabaret the rooms are much smaller, it's all much more intimate, the light is on the audience as well as on you, you can see the whites of their eyes, and they're very near. They haven't got that nice big barrier of a stage and a bit of an auditorium and maybe an orchestra pit. You haven't got any of that. And you will quite often be working among the audience as well. And for people who are not used to being themselves like that, it's a scary experience. It really is.
And that was what I thought was so interesting, because I never thought of the difference between cabaret, where you're more with the audience, and being an actor in a play, where you're playing a part and there is that mental and physical separation. And so now, in this brand new world of online marketing, we're having to be our own brand, right? And it's a little bit of a role that we're playing, but we're also asked to be really authentic, appropriately authentic, I like to say.
Yes.
And I've also had women talk about, staring at the dead eye of the camera, and that's really zaps their energy. Can you speak to that at all?
Yes, in as much as you don't know whether you're talking to a person when you're looking at this little sort of aperture thing. I think the best thing to do in a situation like that is to imagine a person there, and imagine it to be one person, not the millions that are going to watch your videos, and they are, yes, they really will. But rather think of it as being a friend, that you're telling a friend something. That's probably the easiest way to get over that fear of the camera, and no one actually being there. The other nice thing is that you can take as many takes as you like, unlike on stage, where that's it, you said it. If you've made a mistake, well, you've made a mistake. But if you, with a camera, you can at least turn the thing off and do it again.
That's a good point, because I'm starting to talk about live stream versus videos that we shoot ahead of time, and how there's a place for both. And that, live stream is great, but it's not approached the same way. Your audience doesn't approach it the same way as they do videos that are finished. And it's easier to produce a short video that's more of a finished edited video. It's easier to keep those short than sometimes live stream, because people tend to ramble on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you work with clients ever with techniques ahead of time to get them to relax?
Yes, because quite often we don't really know what it is that's worrying them. It may not even be the visibility at that point. It might be the creativity aspect of it. They think they've got an idea, but they don't quite know how to put it together. They don't know if it's a solo piece, which most cabarets are. Then it's a lot to learn and try to keep in your mind, and you can't really be prompted so easily, and so there's a whole lot of anxiety going on. So actually, I go into rather a school teachery mode, where I take charge. I take charge. I know, mother's in charge here. It's all right.
It's called a video producer as well, a director.
Yeah, I believe it. And then just make sure that everybody feels comfortable as to where they are and what they're going to do next, and have the day kind of planned. Plans can change. They don't need to be set in stone. But if you have a plan and you know where you're going, then it does at least keep everybody fairly calm.
Yes, and I would say that dovetails exactly into the process that I teach women as well about. So much of anxiety can be relieved by just preparation.
Yes.
And just taking the time, that's why pre-production is probably more important, but definitely as important as actually the shooting piece. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense.
And in fact, Winston Churchill very famously said, "He who fails to plan, plans to fail." So there.
Perfect. He also said never, 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 never give up.
Yes, he did.
And he never did.
No, he didn't. Look what happened.
I know, exactly. It's such a great person to think about in all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, and then one last question, unless you have something else to add as well. Did you ever yourself struggle, or do you struggle with performance anxiety?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, gosh, yes. I think, honestly, if you're going to get up in front of a whole lot of people who have paid to come and see you, if you don't feel some kind of something going on, then you probably shouldn't be doing it anymore, really. I mean, I don't mean you want to be sort of, terrified like you might be on the first night. I'm not talking about that awful sort of sick feeling that people get. You shouldn't be feeling that after a little while. But yes, I mean, it's a fine line between terror and excitement, and the trick is to tune into the excitement.
Oh, that's a great way of thinking about it. And I know how I do that. How do you do that?
I don't know. I just, because in a way, it's a little bit like a battle. You'll feel a lot better after you've fought it. Even if you might be bloodied, you won't be bowed. In a way, you just need to, you kind of want to go on. You want to go on and do it. And the opening music can help you get on and do it. And then actually when you're out there, actually you feel fine. Because all of a sudden you know where you are. You're on familiar territory and you can just go. But yes, I mean, there's a lot of sweaty palms and umpteen visits to the bathroom before you go. Very awkward if you've got a great big period costume on. But anyway. Yeah.
At least we don't have to deal with that. We've just been doing our own videos for our businesses. No big costumes. Well, most of us anyway. So I think that also speaks to having done it before and doing it again and again and again, just practicing.
Yes.
So practicing for a little bit of skill, but you never quite get to the point. Maybe like if you get to the point where you're not a little nervous, maybe it's not a great sign. Maybe being nervous is actually a good thing.
It can be. It depends on what you're doing. I mean, you know, we can think of singers who are so laid back they may as well be horizontal.
Yes.
And they sing beautifully because everything is so relaxed. All of their vocal cords are so relaxed. But it depends on the performance that you're doing. And you do become less anxious the more you've done it. The more you think, oh yes, I know what's happening here. Or you know how the tech's going to work because it's done it a million times. And then if it doesn't do it, it's not quite so frightening as if it's your first time trying to do things. I mean, it's always a bit scary when you're first coming into these things, but you do, over time, become better, like anything else. Riding a bike.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great, that's a one that I use all the time too. Riding a bike or anything that's difficult at first where you feel literally off balance, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I just try to think about my bigger goal, my bigger vision, and that I can't physically meet with people one-on-one, all the people that I would like to help one-on-one. There's just I'm only one person with so many hours in the day. And so that gets me past the fear and into a little bit more of the excitement. Like, this is a huge opportunity, online video. I mean, the biggest chance for women to be seen, and now midlife women, mid-career women, who often I read things where we complain about feeling invisible. Well, you don't have to feel invisible. You can, shooting video is the opposite of that. So I want to thank you very much.
Welcome.
And did you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. It was just, I was just thinking about the being invisible thing. That is one of the reasons why a lot of older women do go into cabaret, because it's a chance for them to take some control over what they do. You're not reliant on somebody saying, no, dear, sorry. We'll have somebody 15 years younger. It's your show. You do what you want, and you do it when you want and how you want. Which, how many times do you get a chance to do that? Well, thank you very much. I'll take that.
Yes.
Any age.
I love that, and that's kind of how I feel about my personal, like my business is I can do. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna. In fact, I'm gonna start to think of it more like a cabaret analogy. Yeah, and I'm gonna do some exploring on that. Maybe we'll do some more talks around that.
Why not? Why not?
All right. Thank you so very much.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate
It's been
it.
fun.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right, Jess, do you mind?
Thank you.
Yeah. That was so